I surveyed a lot of the comments that came into the channel over this past week, and there were some concerns that people had. Dan Lanning did pull in a nice class at Oregon that outranked USC's class. If all you're doing is going recruiting rankings, who's better than us? And I'm not happy with that. I'm a USC fan, and we need to be number one in the Pac-12, if not higher than that even. So, your evaluation of the USC class, what were some of the objectives? Were they met versus what Dan Lanning's doing at Oregon? And of course, he's not going to be the competition. And most of these players' careers are not going to be played in competition against the Pac-12 and Dan Lanning, but against, of course, the Big Ten.
Well, it was great to see Harbor go to USC. Oh, wait a minute. That's South Carolina. That's the other USC. In terms of this recruiting landscape and just comparing USC and Oregon, I mean, the difference is defense, right? Roderick Pleasant goes to Oregon and not USC. And I think that's the issue for USC. It's not really a holistic, pervasive recruiting issue or problem relative to Oregon or relative to the national scene. It's offense versus defense. You could be the biggest Lincoln Riley hater, critic, whatever, but tell me where the weakness is on USC's offense heading into 2023. You cannot find a weakness on the USC offense. Got offensive linemen, depth at running back, depth at wide receiver, Caleb, and now you add Walker Lyons, and getting him over and against Utah and BYU. I mean, USC is loaded, deep, stacked at just about every position. Justin Dedich coming back. So you have two deep quality at each of the 5 offensive line positions. The offensive line is definitely a lot deeper than it was going into last season. I mean, the offensive recruiting, portal, retention, that whole piece on the offensive side of the ball, that is a complete offense. And I'm not just talking about run versus pass. I'm talking about addressing depth and quality at all the position groups. USC is there. USC is set on offense. It's really on defense where you miss Roderick Pleasant. You don't get Harbor. He goes to the other USC for Shane Beamer in Columbia, South Carolina. There is a real question about recruits wanting to play for an Alex Grinch defense. I mean, that is a legitimate concern. That's a legitimate talking point. It's gonna hang over USC throughout the offseason. Now, of course, you're getting another transfer portal window in the spring. Obviously, Jordan Addison came to USC in that spring portal window last season. USC is going to need another really big couple of defensive transfer portal additions because I don't think it's all there on defense. I think the linebacker room, I know Tim Prangley has talked about this with Mason Cobb and Tackett Curtis coming in, a transfer and a recruit, both the best of the best, top end. There's no question that USC's linebacker room is really good, but that still leaves D-line and the secondary. And that's where Roderick Pleasant, that really stings, that, in terms of what Oregon and Dan Lanning were able to do relative to Lincoln Riley, Alex Grinch, and USC. So it's not a pervasive, holistic thing. I think that's the thing that should make USC fans feel somewhat reassured that, people want to play for Lincoln Riley's offense. It's, do I want to play for a Lincoln Riley / Alex Grinch defense? So it's a very specific, targeted thing. And so in 2023, either Alex Grinch gets the job done or he's out of here. And so one way or another, there will be some degree of resolution such that I think USC in 2024 and beyond, one should expect the defensive recruiting to pick up. But right now, certainly heading into 2023, it is a question mark and it is a legitimate point of concern. So USC fans shouldn't feel, really severely concerned about recruiting because I think the defensive situation, it's going to be resolved one way or another, either positively or negatively this year. And of course, just around the bend, we have the 12-team playoff in 2024. And, we talked a little bit about this, Mark, last week here at the Voice of College Football, that with the schedule being what it is, if USC goes 10-2, doesn't make the playoff, but makes the Pac-12 championship game, that's a pretty good season given the schedule, which is just a beast. I mean, it's a beast. It is what it is, and the program doesn't yet have the depth on defense that it really needs to be at the very top level where you expect 11-1 against a schedule such as what USC has. I don't think the Trojans are quite there. 10-2 would really be good work in 2023, but that probably won't lead to a playoff berth. And so in many ways, I think for USC fans have to wrestle with just this reality that, we might need to wait one more year for the playoff. And of course, in 2024, like if USC is not making a 12-team playoff, then that's a 5-alarm fire. I mean, we would all agree with that. Like there should be zero question that USC should be in the 12-team playoff every year without question, zero doubt. It should be an automatic thing. But for one more year in 2023 with the 4-team setup, the defensive depth not being entirely there relative to Oregon, relative to Utah, the other stalwart programs in the Pac-12, it's a very inconvenient conversation. I think a good one, but like getting a finite answer on that is going to divide the USC fan base, because a lot of fans will say, wow, 10-2 against this schedule, that really wouldn't be all that bad. And then you'll get another large contingent of USC fans reasonably saying, hey, we expected playoff berths by year 2. We expected to be right in the hunt for the national championship. And, Alex Grinch is a drag on the program, and, Lincoln Riley is settling for second best. I mean, that is a valid critique. Like, why the hell didn't you get Jim Leonard? Why didn't you fire Alex Grinch, kick him to the curb, and bring in an elite defensive coordinator, a proven defensive coordinator? Like, that is a valid line of argument. And Lincoln Riley is sticking to his methods, being stubborn, as we covered on the Riley Files with our Oklahoma insider, and the loyalty that Lincoln Riley exhibited to a lot of people at Oklahoma when that loyalty probably wasn't fully merited. So you have this push and pull. You have this tug of war between two very legitimate points of thought. Like, I'm not going to say that USC fans expecting a playoff berth in 2023 are the unrealistic people in the room. Not going to go there. But I'm also not going to say that the fans who think 10-2 is a really good season against this schedule, I'm not going to say that, they're settling because there are larger realities at work here. And the biggest reality at work here is Alex Grinch is still employed.